Hey y'all, this is AJ with I Bleeping Love Packaging, the podcast for people who bleeping love packaging. And for those who just don't know it yet. Guys, I am so excited. We've got Charlie on the podcast today. We met at Hasbro and he's had an amazing career after that. And so I'm really excited for you guys to hear about his career path. Also at the end, we have this like fun little goofy story about our time at Hasbro. So stick around to the end. And then right after that, there's a code word. I'm going to start doing this at the end of each episode. So there's a code word at the end. If you put that code word in the comments on Spotify, or if you send me an email with that code word in it, I'll send you a sticker of the podcast logo. So that way you can show other people that you bleeping love packaging. So stick around to the end, send me a message with the code word in it, and let's get you a sticker. I'm excited for this episode. Let's dive right in. Okay, welcome to another episode of I Bleeping Love Packaging. I'm AJ. I'm here with Charlie, who is another one of my old coworkers from Hasbro. Super excited to have Charlie on the podcast. He's got like a great resume and is just an awesome engineer. So Charlie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and kind of go through your history. Take it away.
Thanks, AJ, for having me. My name's Charlie Troncone, and I'm a packaging engineer. Definitely a lot of years of experience that I've had, of course, with AJ. But my history kind of starts at RIT. We kind of crossed paths at Hasbro for some time, and that was just me coming out of school at RIT, and definitely a huge learning curve in terms of like real world experience and design. And then I bounced down a little bit, you might say, but all in all, like I enjoy structure design. I'm in my current role at Edgewell Personal Care, doing as a senior packaging engineer, working on innovation and also heading up some new product development items over there. So great to be on the podcast, AJ. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man. Great to have you on here. I'm really excited because I think that you've got a really good story, I think, in general of just about packaging and kind of your evolution and how you got kind of where you are now. And did you start out in packaging or did you switch into packaging at RIT?
So I was originally an art student in high school and didn't really necessarily know what I wanted to do. I had parents that were pro science and math. They said to me, you got the brain for it, so why not, try it like a industrial design or an engineering background. And RIT came about, got there through scholarship, and yeah, that was such a euphoric feeling to get into RIT because we're looking at like SUNY schools at the time. But when I got in, I was an undeclared, and kind of bummed me out, but at the same time, it was almost like a blessing in disguise, right? Because it allowed me to explore all of the degrees that RIT had. And luckily, I found myself in a packaging 101 class where there was a woman that came in from Oscar Mayer. I'll never forget this. She came in and presented herself. And she's like, I've had all this time in the Wienermobile and I do blister form packaging for Oscar Mayer and I love my job. And I said to myself, like this girl has a lot of energy that I'm not really feeling. I'm not really getting out from like the mechanical engineers, the electrical engineers. And that's not to say that, those degrees are I'm not diminishing those degrees whatsoever, but I just felt naturally gravitated towards that energy. And then I met the chairman over there, and his name is Dan Johnson,
Yeah,
and
Dan's still the chair there. Yeah.
he is, yeah. And I actually met him 2 weeks ago at the RIT Career Fair, and he's such a wonderful guy. And slowly but surely, I think I gravitated towards packaging. And I always say this to a lot of people: it's like left and right side brained, right? So it's got the technical aspects, but it also has potentially, some of the creative. And it's a great degree to blend both worlds together.
Cool. And you were at the career fair a couple weeks ago at RIT because they do a packaging career fair every year.
Hmm.
Were you there for Edgewell?
Yes, I was
Were you
there.
guys hiring a co-op?
Yes.
Cool.
We actually hired 2 co-ops for the full year, which was amazing. It's kind of a full circle moment because I remember 9, 10 years ago when I was sitting in the same seats as those students and just being so frightened. And they tell people, they tell the students, hey, like this is going to be like the moment that you are going to try to get the co-ops, right? And you got Colgate, you got Hasbro, you got Westrock, you got all these big companies. And just to be able to relate to those students in that type of way and be like, hey, like come work for my company. And being on the employer side was a learning experience within itself. But I'm so happy that we got some great picks from the fair.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember I only went to the career fair as the employer once, and it was for Hasbro. And it was fun to be on the other side of the table, to be like the interviewer and not the interviewee. Like, it was just nice to have them bring me their work to evaluate as opposed to having to be the one to, have to bring my work in. It's just exciting to see the evolution of like how the program's evolved over time.
Yeah.
When you were a co-op at Hasbro, or sorry, not at Hasbro, when you were a co-op, when you were at RIT, where did you co-op, and did you think that kind of like helped you out in your career?
That helped me out immensely starting off. I remember showing up to the career fair and I saw Hasbro and I was like, that's my dream job. And I didn't necessarily know how to get there, but over the course of a few years and a couple failed interviews for co-op, I think it was my second year or my second time going back into the career fair. One person said, "Oh, why don't you try Menasha?" And Menasha does their POP display division as well as their design division over there. And I was like, yeah, like I'll interview and feel out the design companies. And yeah, ended up getting the co-op through Menasha at Inglewood Cliffs, which is the same building as Unilever at the time. That building's no longer there. I learned out recently, but when I was there, we worked closely with Unilever on all of their temporary and sometimes permanent displays. And I worked there for about 8 months, really grinded and just truly thought this is really going to help out my design background and really focused on RDOS and getting all the shortcuts, understanding all the standards. Like I remember still having like the booklet of all of like HSCs, RSCs and their code numbers for FEFCO. And I kind of keep those books like as sentimental value, but as well as like just to keep my knowledge going. It's like, hey, like this is where your origin story is at.
Absolutely. And was that your first time like being away from home for a while?
Well, I wasn't away from home. I was commuting to New Jersey
Okay.
for like an hour and 20 minutes one way. So it was definitely a
Wow.
drive.
Yeah.
But when you're that young and you're like just trying to get internship experience, like you almost do anything. And I had a great mentor over there. His name's Evan Padilla. I think he's still over there. But yeah, definitely, yeah, just dedicated towards that internship.
So when you came back to RIT, you worked in the dynamics lab for a while, if I'm not mistaken, right?
So when I came back, I guess I was like a little bored, still riding off the high of the co-op experience and wanted like not some side change, but how do I get more involved with the program? And I got more involved through the materials lab as well as the dynamics lab. And the difference between the two is the dynamics lab had the distribution testing. So that's the vibration table, compression, drop testing. So and it was an ISTA, ASTM certified lab. And I just got involved with the people. I just was I just hung around those people,
You
and
couldn't get rid of Charlie. He was just
I couldn't
there.
get
He
rid
was
of
just
him.
there. Yeah.
It was like if I'm not at my really cheap rent, my really cheap apartment, like I'm gonna be like over like in the lab chilling out with
Were
everyone.
you were you speaking of really cheap? Were you a Riverside guy? Is that where you were at?
I remember paying $600 split between four people.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Were you living in a bathtub? Like where were you staying? That's crazy.
So I had to lease an individual room in a four-bedroom, four-bath, but it was so small. And I remember posting up like my speakers and my vinyl records, like, and it would just take up half the room because I was like so into music. So it was just that. It was my student laptop and it was my bed. But I didn't even sleep on a bed. I slept on an air mattress.
No.
I was just pulling all the stops when I was young.
That's awesome. So you were in the dynamics lab for a while, did some testing. We're in the materials lab. Can you tell people about the materials lab and like what's it like up in the materials lab compared to down in the dynamics lab?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in the materials lab, that lab specifies or specializes in obviously material testing involved with paper boards, cardboard, and such, but also flexible film. So they had Instrom, they had the Sutherland Rub, 3000. I always remember the 3000 at the end of the Sutherland Rub. So a lot of students like hung out, and that's where all the IOPP student chapter meetings happen. So if you're not in class, you're either in the materials lab or the dynamics lab. You just kind of have to pick which one. Naturally, I gravitated towards the cutting table, which was through ESCO, and they used to get old tables from old companies and recycle them. I mean, you're getting a secondhand table, but it's still almost the latest software. So the students had to do projects. I remember there was a perfume with a dowel, and I know this because I just talked to RIT students and they're showing me their
Are
dowel
they
projects.
still doing the Dowel Rod
They're,
project?
they're still doing the
My
dowel
God, they
project.
need to update that project, my guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen so many dowel rod projects. It's crazy. I made my dowel rod project was I think we could still like market the dowel rod as anything we wanted to. I think mine was I did it as like a juice bottle, I think was what mine was. And it was during the Charlie Sheen craze. And so mine was called Tiger's Blood. Tiger's Blood. juice. It was so bad. It's so stupid. My graphics were terrible. And like as an RIT tiger, you've got like a RIT tiger with like bleeding. It was like the worst.
You
It
just
was
put in
the
like random stripes over it,
I
like to
did
get the
not show
tiger
it to
fur.
anybody during my co-op interviews. It was it was the ugliest looking project I ever made.
I did a perfume, and I remember I called it Elegance.
Ooh,
And
Charlie.
it was like a teal, like light blue, and I remember doing like a really snazzy die cut, but it was so the die cut on the side of the carton was so dinky that it would like crease on itself, and I would never design it today like that.
Yeah. It's funny looking back on that stuff where it's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I made that." You know?
Yeah.
That's
But you gotta
crazy.
start somewhere, and
Yeah.
obviously RIT is like the I would say one of the best places to kinda start if you're getting into packaging. I mean, you do have, like, 3 or 4 big colleges, so it's Clemson, it's Michigan State, Virginia Tech you throw in there, and I know there's one more, I'm forgetting it,
San Jose is
besides
pretty good too. Over in California, San Jose State is pretty good from what I've heard.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a I feel like it's a kind of growing field. There's not a lot of schools that do it, unfortunately. I think that it's kind of like a blessing and a curse where there's a lot of like need for packaging engineers, but there's not a lot of schools that teach it. And so there's not like a lot of knowledge about the major, which is like that's kind of a curse that there's not a lot of knowledge about it, but it's also kind of a blessing because it's a pretty stable job market for the most part. You can usually find something if you're willing to move, you can usually find a job pretty easily.
Yeah, for the most part. I did hear recently that a Michigan State, um, professor actually started the RIT program back in the day, so I always gotta give Michigan State its props for kind of building out the program. When I was at the career fair just recently, it seemed that the classes are kind of the same. So
Mhm.
I'm a little worried about down the road, and I hope that the students and the council and the staff like realize like, hey, like we need to put more emphasis on this because I think slowly but surely, like you said, like it's just a profession that's kind of losing its niche, right?
Mhm.
I don't want it to fade, but that's just at
Sure.
RIT. Maybe at other colleges, like it may
Well,
become.
I think there's like a pivot right now going on too, where like with EPR happening and stuff, there's like a really big push to do like a lot of data collection and stuff for packaging. And I don't know. Again, I haven't been to the RIT program in a while, and I'm actually heading over there on Friday there's a hockey event that they're going to be hosting.
Mhm.
So I was going to go over there as an IOPP member. But
Nice.
yeah, it'll be fun. I haven't been there since in like 5 years. I haven't been there since I did my last interviews as a Hasbro employee. So it's been a while. But it'll be interesting to chat with some of those guys and be like, hey, like, are you guys looking at increasing the design side? Because I feel like that little dowel rod projects really, unless you were seeking out design stuff at RIT, that's really the design project, unless you're doing like the repack, right? Like the repack project is where you
Mhm.
get your design knowledge at RIT. Other than that, you're
Yeah.
learning it kind of on the job at the co-op.
Yeah, and a lot of students really love the design background. I would say 9 out of 10 students that approached us were like, we're really focused on the design, and we really wanna, you know, look for a co-op that emphasizes that and builds on that. And I hate to tell you, but like over half the companies are more, project management, supply chain managed, like, and it's just the realistic world of packaging right now. And unless you're working for a Hasbro or Fisher Price, even some of the smaller companies that are either point of purchase or like custom, like our custom design, you won't be able to get that experience.
Yeah. You almost have to
But
go supplier route if you wanna go that experience too. Like, if you go for, like a Menasha or you go to, like, a Westrock, you could get some of that design experience with ArtioSCAD if you wanna learn Artio specifically,
yeah,
but you're gonna not be integrated into a company. You're gonna be I mean, it's a company, but you're a supplier as opposed to being integrated into a brand. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. And that was like one of my biggest like turns like as a professional where I had a lot of design experience, but I transitioned more into a PM role, which is obviously like, I feel like it's challenging me, again. And I love that. It's kind of re-engaging me to like when I was like not only in college, but kind of later, where just the strive to keep learning and also the strive to keep growing as a packaging engineer. Because you're gonna use the design background, you're gonna use your PM background, you're gonna use like the new trends, like what's going on in the real world. So I think it's all vital.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were at Hasbro for a while, but you kinda snuck into Hasbro,
I
right?
did.
So
Yeah.
tell me about the sneaking into Hasbro because that's, I think, a kind of a fun story.
It's a great story. So when I was in school, so for context, right? It was July 2018 to July 2019 is when I had a temp position at Hasbro. So I didn't really have a co-op. It was actually a temp, but I classified it as a co-op to RAT. So I snuck in the co-op experience like as a temp thing because I figured like no other like student has this and it would be a good experience for me, although it would push out my graduation a semester. So ended up getting the Hasbro co-op through the Menasha kind of structure. And I was very happy to get Hasbro. Once I finished up and I had a semester left, I had senioritis. Like I was like, just get me out of here. I want to go back to work. Unfortunately, I don't think Hasbro had any positions open at the time, but I still knew Jackie Patterson, who was the manager over there.
Are you
And
still working with Jackie?
so funny enough, full circle moment. Uh, Jackie Patterson works at Edgewell, and she helped me assist me into the interview process for Edgewell
That's awesome.
last year.
Yeah.
So that's there's something to take away from this podcast. That's it. It's just like, hey, don't burn your bridges or
Yeah.
try not to.
I had an interview today at a company and I got that interview through an old co-op of mine, right? So like it's all about like the packaging network is so small and like if I feel like if you burn a bad bridge in packaging, you got to be real careful because it's a tight-knit community. Like everybody kind of knows everybody.
Yeah, it is.
Especially on the East Coast. Like I feel like East Coast people we're all tight. And so it's interesting to just see that, you start out in RIT and then RIT kind of like matriculates out on the East Coast, and you can always kind of find somebody that you either know or know somebody that you know through somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've definitely made some decisions in the past that I have some regrets over. But at the end of the day, I remember I was just kind of focusing on like where my career is going and my progression.
So you went to Hasbro, you did a temp gig, which was actually your co-op, but like
Right.
wasn't really a co-op. So you did it for a year. Then you left and you graduated, and then you came back after a little bit, right?
Yeah. So to kind of continue on the story, so I reached out to Jackie Patterson in December of 2019, and I said, I'm interested in coming back to Hasbro. Is there anything for me? While I had a job offer signed from Milwaukee Tool out in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Uh, and Jackie said, I can make you a contractor again for a year, but that's all I can promise. And I just took that and I ran with it because at the time, I didn't want to necessarily move out of the East Coast and I was still kind of coming out of school and I really wanted to make my statement in Hasbro. So I went with Hasbro.
Yeah.
So then that continued. March 2020 happens, right? World
Wild
goes
time. So little thing happens in March 2020.
just a little bump in the road. People will start coughing. We're like, it's nothing to worry
It's
about.
no big deal. Yeah.
2 weeks later, everyone's on
Oh my
shutdown.
god.
I remember being in the office and that email hit us. And I remember looking at each other because I used to go to your cube and Jay's cube a lot in gyms. And I feel like we reacted the same way I think everyone would react. It's just like, this is Passover. This is not crazy. And then you have like the crazy conspirators being like, oh, we're
I
going to be
haven't been
away.
back to an office since then. I haven't been back to an office full time
That's
since that day.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Do you miss it?
I kinda do. The place that I interviewed at today would be a full-time in-office position, and I was kind of kicking around the idea. I'm like, "Is that something I really want?" But, like, where I'm at right now, I'm in a basement, and I can touch the ceiling sitting down. Like, that's kinda where my home office has been for the last 3 years.
You can secretly be in a troll, like
I'm like
trolling.
I'm like a little cave troll down here, and I kind of miss talking to people that aren't either my wife or my 8-month-old baby. So it's kinda nice to, like, have other humans to talk to.
Yeah, expand the circle to, like a couple coworkers.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's for me, and I used to get this a lot with other people. They used to say, like, I love working from home. Like, I get so much done. I'm so focused. I'm the opposite. I like routine. I like systems. They work for me. Maybe it's because I have slight ADHD or something, but I enjoy going into work, put on a smile, shaking hands, that kind of stuff. And it helps build repetition, right?
But it's also really good for your career in general to like build those relationships with people. I think that if I would have gone into remote work directly out of school, I would not have been as successful as I am. I think that having the foundation of my in-person work has made it so that I could be remote, you know?
Hmm.
But going directly remote out of school, there's no way I would have been successful. I needed the in-person learning.
Yeah.
Could I be remote for the rest of my life? Like, I probably could be, as long as I had some opportunity to go and meet with the team every once in a while. It's
Hmm.
kinda what I was doing at Love Every was, like, going out there once a quarter, maybe, like, twice a year, and, like, meeting with the team, saying, "Hey," getting my face out there. But doing it, like, all the time completely without talking to anybody else would kinda drive me insane.
Yeah. It would drive me insane. I've come to know that about myself. because when I was working at Hasbro during the March 2020 through the summer, I was losing my mind. And I did move in back with my parents, and maybe that had something to do with it. I love mom and dad, don't get me wrong. But I think there comes a point where it's like, hey, I want to be like out, you get antsy. Also, the Hasbro full time didn't necessarily work out for me. So I evidently decided, hey, like I want to explore other areas this time, which is when I decided to go to West Rock in Long Island. And that was in Deer Park, New York. And that was the only, to my knowledge, it was the only corrugator on the island at the time. So used to get a lot of business just for the Long Island people, from Suffolk and Nassau County. And that was a factory job. So that was hard hats, that was neon vests, that was hard boots. I still remember the boss over there. His name was Ken. I still remember the quality guy over there, Diego. Shout out Diego. But evidently that took me away from the social aspect because they just plopped me in an office with no one else around.
Gotcha.
And I still remember Diego would come in every once in a while and he'd be like, "What's going on, man? What's going on?" And I'd be like, "Nothing, really. Absolutely nothing." And then he would like walk out. So, I mean, I had my fair share. And that job in particular was a structure design job. And they actually gave me a cutting table all to myself. So I was like, they were like, "We haven't run this table in a while. Have at it." Right. So I was cutting up designs, and that's when I started experimenting more with like furniture design. So I had a separate like hobby to make everything in my apartment made out of cardboard. So it was a coffee table, there was a coat rack. I've tried to design a bed frame, failed, learned.
But did you have an actual mattress this time, or were you still sleeping on the
Yeah.
air mattress?
Yeah, I still had a mattress this time, but when I was coming out of college and I'm just like starting to make money, but it wasn't enough money to justify like all like Raymore and Flanagan. Uh, like
You weren't splurging for, like, the legit bed frame yet. You were, like,
no,
still on the Amazon bed frame.
I'm still on the Amazon or I'm still on Craigslist or Goodwill
Awesome. So you were the only structural designer there then, I'm assuming, right? It was like you were the sole guy in that plant, or was there anybody
at
else that
that
was there?
plant. Yeah.
Yeah, at that plant. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you left West Rock and you went kinda back to toy and games, you went to Spin Master,
Yeah.
and that was in the city, right? That was in New York.
Yeah, that was in Queens. That was in Long Island City. That transition, I remember talking to you about that during that time, and I was
Yeah.
definitely lonely. It also had a mix of COVID too, and I said, "AJ, like, I gotta get back, like, into that field." There's something about the collaboration aspect that I really loved. I couldn't really solo it for so long. I feed off of other people's energy. So Spin Master ended up being it was actually referred to by Jonathan. And he's like, "Hey, like this Spin Master thing is open. Like, why don't you try there?" Got in and I was there for about 4 years collectively total. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the time frame. And I moved to the city in fall of 2021. So pretty much a short time at West Rock. And when I got back into spin or got into Spin Master, I just kind of kicked off where I left off from Hasbro. It's like the same systems, obviously a little different process, but still building on design in toys and primary design, and then doing like secondary, tertiary for them. And I worked on a lot of cool brands. Started off with Rubik's, that morphed into some Paw Patrol, and then it morphed into outdoor. Then it morphed into games. Like it was just like an endless amount of work that was there, which was great. I was excited. I'm like, I'm back in this. We're ready to go, hit the ground running. And I met so many great people over there and so many great connections. It kind of transformed me not only as a professional, but as a person. So
Yeah. And you kinda had, like, a little soul searching. We're not gonna, like, hammer this too hard, but you had a little bit of soul searching that happened while you were there, right? So, there was a gig that you had an opportunity to go to, and you took it and then came back. Do you wanna talk on that just a little bit, just so we can kinda hit that for people who might be interested in what does that look like?
yeah, I think it's important to highlight when I was at Spin, I did feel a little design exhausted where I was just kind of doing structure day in and day out. And I didn't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of career. Like there's guys here that are working years and years, and I don't really see like a pathway. So I ended up starting to poke around and I ended up looking at it was a company called Prestige Consumer Healthcare that I wanted to kind of grow my perspective on the technical side more, on supply chain, on PMing, but it was for a pharmaceutical company, and it was for a senior position, so it would be a step up for me. And I took that, and I worked there for almost a year, I'd say. You know, great team over there, nothing but respect for what those guys do. I felt kind of found out or felt that at the end of my time, it wasn't a good fit for me. Just a couple nuances with pharmaceuticals and all the regulatory and the legality around it. It ended up just being a little boring. And so funny enough, I still kept a connection with Spin Master, and they hired a new packaging manager, and I'm like, "Ho ho, like, this is, like, maybe the rebuilding of the team, like, maybe there's opportunity to grow and get recognized." And it was a span of, like, 3 or 4 weeks. Had one interview, she was Michelle Johnson, shout out Michelle, that she's like, "Hey, like, we can get you back in here." And I think they were not desperate, but they were looking for people with design background again. So I was like, "I'll be a Boomerang employee again, like, I don't care." But I always felt when I stepped away from Prestige that I was like, maybe there was something there to grow on, and I never forgot that feeling. Like, I never when I went back to Spin, a lot of people say like, "Oh, like, companies never really change so much, like, the work is kind of the way it is." It's a true statement. When I got back in and I had the manager, things were a little better, but the chaos was intense. And the toy industry took a major hit during that time. We're talking not only tariffs, but the reorg happened. I started to feel constricted from an office side at Spin Master. And that's just nature of the toy business. So I'm not hating on Spin Master. I actually have a great deal of love for those people. So at the end of my second term of Spin Master, that's when I started looking at elsewhere. And I evidently fell upon Edgewell. And it was the first time, and I'll be 100% transparent with you, it was the first time that I felt like well accustomed and welcomed like into an organization, but it was also a step in the right direction for me because I remember being in that interview and asking the right questions. A lot of people don't tell you like the rights and the wrongs. Like if you're not really good at interviewing or you're still trying to figure out yourself like in your 20s, like even personally, like still trying to figure that out. Like it's a never ending saga. But in an interview with a company and you're able to ask questions that you're like really passionate about and you're like, I need this, I don't want this. That was the first time. And when I fell into Edgewell, I was greeted with so much warmth and open arms that I was like, this is my time here. And I knew that this was the right choice for me.
Yeah, it sounds like your experience, you kind of were able to know what you like and know what you don't like. And that's a
Yeah.
really important part about building a good resume is knowing what to ask when you finally find somewhere that you want to go to. Because it is a two-way street when it comes to an interview. It's always like, I know you guys are interviewing me, but you're also interviewing that company. You want to make sure that you guys are both a good fit because you want to be there in the long run, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to be comfortable.
Yeah, I felt like it took a long time for me to realize that. There was maybe some slight validation of knowing that I went to RIT and I'm like, "Oh, like I know that I have this degree," and I'm like, "I want to work, with this company," right? And you're in the interview and you're kind of saying yes, like, "Yes, I want this." Yes, without even realizing like what you are most optimal for or what you want. So
Hmm.
anyway, at the end of the day, it ended up working out where I transitioned from Spin Master to Edgewell. And, Spin Master, when I left and I announced my second time of leave, they said, "Oh, you'll be back in a year." And it's like one of those like harsh realities of, like if you job bounce like me and you're just trying to figure it out, like you can take it on the chin. You just be like, hey, it is what it is. I'm 29. That's kind of the way it goes. That's kind of been my career path, but I want to be able to settle down in a place and really focus on what I do. And they know that too. I think they wanted to know like hey, like it could work out for me, but they also want to see me, be happy, and they also want the best choice for me.
Well, it sounds like that you left on good terms there, which is, I mean, that's always important. And like we were saying before, it's nice to have those connections in the industry. You never know when you're going to need them or whatever in the future, right? All right, so let's leave it with this one. If you had a time machine, you can go back and talk to freshman Charlie at RIT. What are you going to tell freshman Charlie? Would you be like, "Yo, you need to learn this better, or you need to like focus on this," or is it just keep going on the path, man?
Keep going on the path, man. I literally thought of this same question 2 weeks ago when I was at RIT. I was in the hotel room and I'm doing work and I had the vision of the students like interviewing and I said like, what if I was able to go back in time and tell like 20-year-old Charlie, like, you know, get your shit together or like focus on this or maybe make this connection, don't make this connection, right? All I can say to that kid is keep doing what you're doing. Like, I do believe that there's a path for everyone. I do believe that there's like some sort of destiny, and faith. I'm just laissez-faire. Keep that kid going,
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad you were able to get back to RIT and be able to, like, see that full circle and do the interview side and kinda, like, realize that you just had a good path, you know, and that you feel good where you are now and you're, like, trucking along, man. You're just, like, living that Edgewell dream, and you're living the packaging dream.
Yeah, I'm ready for this next chapter for me in a way, like learning more about technical side, learning about innovation, like meeting with suppliers, like it's all new and it's all good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's awesome. Charlie, dude, it's been a pleasure, man. I haven't chatted with you in a long time, so it's really nice to, like, catch up and just, like, hear your story and chat about packaging and chat about life, and, um, it's always awesome to talk, and I wish that we were wearing our mustaches, which we can get into that story another time. We won't talk about that one right now, but if you know, you know, we'll put it that way. But yeah, man, it's been great, and, thank you so much for coming on and chatting and telling people how much you love packaging.
I will say when I worked with AJ at Hasbro, that he gave me before I left Hasbro, he gave me mustaches on a card.
We Okay, we'll just do it really quick. We'll do the story quick. We'll do this. This is like okay. If you want to stop listening to the podcast right now, you can stop.
Stop
Thank you for
about
listening. This has been a great episode. Here's the
This
bonus
is the
content. Here's the
this is the
bonus
after
content at
dark.
the end of the episode. The episode
This is the after dark version.
after yeah. This isn't not after dark. I wouldn't go that crazy. When Charlie and I, when we'd have serious conversations at Hasbro, I found at Hasbro in a free pile one day. I think I found it, right? Didn't I find it in the
You
free
did,
pile?
yeah.
Yeah. I found in the free pile one day a bunch of adhesive mustaches, which were just like black adhesive mustaches. And I remember Charlie coming in, and we were having a rough day. I don't remember what it was, but we were having like a tough conversation about something. Uh, just to keep things light, before we started talking, I made Charlie put on a mustache, one of these mustaches, before we had the conversation. And I think it helped change the tone a little bit. And you can tell me
Yes.
I'm wrong, but I keep a pack of mustaches in my car still.
That's amazing because I remember you putting on this mustache, and the way that I came into your cube, you had it half well, you put it on and you had it half dangling off, like, it was definitely crooked. It's like it's so it was so hard to, like, vent seriously, but it was, like, at the same time, it was such a beautiful moment that I still remember, and you ended up saving those mustaches, and you put it on the back with a sticky note. It's like, "Never lose your weird."
Yeah.
So, I've always kept that wherever I go. I
Do you
kept
still
that.
have those mustaches?
They're hanging up in my cube right now,
That's
and
amazing.
it's so old that the print is fading.
Yeah.
So, because of the exposure of the print, it's preserved where the mustaches are. So, whenever I take a mustache off, it's actually the silhouette of
That's
the
awesome. That's perfect. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's so great. Yeah, I saw that exact same set of mustaches at like a Dollar General or something the other day, and I'm like, I have to pick up one of these, and I leave it in my car. It's like just in case I ever need to have a serious conversation with somebody, I have a set of mustaches in my car, and I think
Yeah.
of you every time I see it.
Yep.
So,
Dude, I think
yeah,
of you
man.
every time I look at those
Oh,
mustaches.
that's awesome. All right, well, that's the post credit scene, I guess. So awesome, cool. Well, thank you again, Charlie, for being on, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, man, I can't wait to see what you do at Edgewell, and very excited.
Thanks for having me, AJ. This has been awesome.
Thank you all again for listening to another episode of I Bleeping Love Packaging, the podcast for people who bleeping love packaging and for those who just don't know it yet. You know, it's been awesome to see the growth of this podcast. And again, just thank you so much for making it to the end. And if you have made it to the end and you're on Spotify, like leave a message on Spotify on the comments with just like, I don't know, the word banana or something this week. That's the code word this week is banana. If you leave me a comment with the word banana, I'll send you a sticker from I Bleeping Love Packaging. Shoot me your address in a DM on LinkedIn and leave a comment for banana on Spotify, and I'll send you a sticker. It's just really great to see this spread and grow, and just really appreciate it. If you could share it with somebody who loves packaging or who you think's gonna like this episode, it'd just be so appreciated. So keep up the great work, y'all. And if you want to be on I Bleeping Love Packaging, as always, shoot me a message at ibleepinglovepackaging@gmail.com or hit me up on LinkedIn. My information will be in the description below.